As long as we're talking policy, I think this is a logical place to mention that we have recently seen the release from one of the two presidential candidates of her initiative on technology and innovation. Now, we could do a whole show or two or three about every point that is raised in this document that was published by the Hillary Clinton campaign. We're not going to do that. We're not going to try and recap it for you. I'm just going to highlight for our listeners and viewers that it exists and mention if you want a cheat sheet to everything that we have discussed on the show this week, go to tagpacker.com/user/thisweekinlaw, and all of our discussion points for episode 351 and every other episode, you'll find them there. But on the topic of the DMCA, there is a copyright section here that I think it's worth bringing up. Number one, to ask everyone on the panel if they think, how they think this letter to Congress jibes with what at least one presidential candidate. Oh, and I'll just mention I would point you toward Donald Trump's technology and innovation agenda, but it doesn't exist yet. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure at some point we will see something from him, but it's not out there in the wild at the moment. Mrs. Clinton, Secretary Clinton, has some smart people, it seems like she's consulting with on this. There's a lot of detail. And in particular, here, I'll just read you the copyright part, which is full of some good nuggets for folks who follow this show. Some things I was surprised to see in there, pleased to see in there. Copyrights encourage creativity and incentivize innovators to invest knowledge, time, and money into the generation of myriad forms of content. However, the copyright system has languished for many decades and is in need of administrative reform to maximize its benefits in the digital age. So you might find Hillary Clinton in the camp of, hey, maybe we should be revisiting some of these laws. Hillary believes the federal government should modernize the copyright system by unlocking and facilitating access to orphan works that languished, unutilized, benefiting neither their creators nor the public. She will also promote open licensing arrangements for copyrighted material and data supported by federal grant funding, including in education, science, and other fields. She will seek to develop technological infrastructure to support digitization, search, and repositories of such content to facilitate its discoverability and use. And she will encourage stakeholders to work together on creative solutions that remove barriers to the seamless and efficient licensing of content in the U.S. and abroad.
And there's also one more sentence that found itself in the defend net neutrality section, but for maybe questionable reasons. But she also maintains her opposition to policies that unnecessarily restrict the free flow of data online, such as the high-profile fight over the Stop Online Piracy Act. So that's another copyright thing that kind of found itself in the net neutrality section. But yeah.
Right. So she's got stuff on patents. She's got lots of stuff about access and broadband. And so I encourage folks to check this out. There's a lot here to unpack. But just in that particular paragraph seemed to resonate with what we were discussing about whether it's possible to update our copyright laws to make sense in the current age. She doesn't seem as pessimistic about that as I might be. And also this notion of grant funding for open license initiatives, that seems intriguing. Anything else here, Ali, you wanted to call out?
Yeah, so I took some of the stuff about the copyright system to be maybe referring to the Copyright Office and the Copyright Office modernization issue, which is does seem to be, again, a DC perspective, as the one thing that there is a lot of agreement from all sides that it is that the office does need there could be some modernization, especially to their IT system. So it's a lot of people agree on the problem. Not everyone agrees on the exact solution, but I do think that if something is going to pass, Copyright Office modernization, a very limited, narrow bill on that could happen. So I kind of looked at it from that lens, that it was more about the office itself and some of the problems that it's facing. And yeah, but I agree there was some stuff in there that was interesting and unexpected about the open licensing and orphan works issues. I know that open licensing, it's a sort of a tangentially related issue to copyright, but I think maybe the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy and some other parts of the government have been committed to making more scholarly works available under an open access regime and often under open licensing, maybe Creative Commons or other kinds of open licensing to prevent these kind of, especially when they're funded by federal grants, and then preventing them from being locked up and not available to the public. So yeah, I was pretty impressed. I'm usually pretty, I kind of have a low bar often for what I'm expecting from politicians about copyright and technology policy. And this definitely surpassed what I was expecting. So I was impressed by the specificity and how balanced it was, because it doesn't often happen. I know there was actually a former presidential candidate, this kind of long shot that this election was Professor Lawrence Lessig, and he had actually had, I will say, he did have some interesting copyright stuff that I agreed with there too. But for a mainstream candidate, I am impressed that the Hillary Clinton campaign put this out. So I'm pleasantly surprised.
The one thing I noticed that's right below the copyright section that she'll take some pushback about from the EFF, I'm sure, and others, is she's got a little paragraph that seems to have been designed to address the FBI versus Apple controversy called Protect Online Privacy as Well as Security. Hillary rejects the false choice between privacy interests and keeping Americans safe, et cetera, et cetera. Reiterates what she was saying at the time in the middle of that controversy of basically getting Silicon Valley and the government together and figuring this all out somehow in a way that enables law enforcement to have access and protects people's privacy. I think there are a lot of people who think that that's that world that she's envisioning can't exist, but she's going to try, according to this. So any other thoughts before we go back to some sweet, sweet musical type stories? Emory, you want to weigh in on any of the policy stuff?
No, I don't really have anything. I think that Ali covered everything. I think the discussion on the orphan works is fascinating. I'm really, really nervous about what she means by rejecting the false choice between privacy interests and keeping Americans safe. That sounds super, super scary, frankly, given her record on that front. But yeah, I'm happy to leave Trainwreck 2016 to other guests to talk about.
Okay. Yes. Would that we, I think, as a country had more optimism about the coming election, but yeah, it is what it is. I guess back once again to the Churchill quote. Yes.